Well, that just happened. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Here to talk about comic book stuff. And just so happens that we only have one show to talk about this week. S.H.I.E.L.D. is on a mini hiatus, and Arrow was off this week, but we still got The Flash. Also, there's Iron Fist news creeping in now, because that thing's going to drop next week, I believe. So if you want to ask about Iron Fist, feel free. Okay. Yeah. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat room, then we get started. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit again. Just seems to be a problem all the time now. I don't know, maybe my allergies are getting worse. Maybe it's the weather or something. Cool shirt. Thank you. All right. Anyway, let's get started. The Flash. Season 3, Episode 15. The Wrath of Savitar. So, Wally is hallucinating Savitar. Cisco vibes him into the future. He finds out that Barry only proposed to Iris to change the future, leading to some really facepalm-worthy melodrama. Savitar starts to drive Wally nuts, so he takes the piece of the Philosopher's Stone that Caitlin had kept hidden, and he throws it into the Speed Force, thus inadvertently giving Savitar what he needed to escape his prison, because he was actually in the Speed Force. Well, who could have seen that coming? And then Wally gets sucked into the Speed Force himself. Also, Iris apparently calls off the engagement because she thinks Barry proposed for the wrong reasons. Because the practical reasons of changing the future so she doesn't get murdered didn't seem important enough to her for some reason. Whatever. You know, not to blow my own horn or anything, but if they'd just thrown the Philosopher's Stone into the Mariana Trench like I suggested, none of this would have happened. Hashtag FK was right. Anywho, I'm actually a little conflicted about this one. On the one hand, there are pieces of a very good episode here. On the other hand, it's once again mired by the characters doing a lot of really stupid things. And unfortunately, one of those characters was Wally. One of the few people this team has that we can usually count on to act more or less intelligently. First thing, we find out that Wally has been hallucinating Savitar for a good solid week. An entire week, he's been seeing Savitar. And he hasn't told anybody. What? Wally knows what's at stake here. He knows this is about saving his sister's life, and he's been acting really responsibly about trying to rise up to that challenge until this point. But now, all of a sudden, Savitar is targeting him, and he doesn't tell anyone? Why? Okay, he said it's because that he didn't know what was happening, but why the fuck should that matter? It makes no sense that he wouldn't tell anyone, and frankly, it's strangely out of character for him. Wally's behavior here is completely at odds with the way he normally behaves, and they don't justify it at all. Wally is being a goddamn idiot in this situation, so much so that when Barry gave him shit for it, I was actually on Barry's side, if you can believe that. Yeah, I actually agreed with Barry. With Barry! Do you have any idea how stupid a character would have to act to make that happen? Do you know how much bile I had to force back down my throat to admit that? What the hell have you done to me, episode? I'm sorry, this really pisses me off. It's a big pet peeve of mine when characters do stupid or out-of-character things just to advance the plot. And instead of just having Barry do this, Because we could always count on Barry to royally fuck up every 5 minutes anyway. They use Wally, one of the few characters on this damn show that I actually like. Fuck this show. Jesus Christ. Okay, so then they rein Wally in, and they have him do some smart things, like scoping out the future murders so he knows what to do when the time comes. Good idea. And it seems like we're getting back on track with him, but then he gets stupid again when he tries to get rid of the Philosopher's Stone all by himself. Doesn't tell Barry, doesn't tell the team, doesn't take Jesse with him. For some reason, all of a sudden Wally is absolutely dead set on handling this by himself without anyone to help him, and I don't understand why, because he's been a team player up until now. Look, I can buy Savitar's plot to give Wally powers and then manipulating him into setting Savitar free. You know, it's convoluted, it's complicated as all hell, but I can buy it. But this situation feels so contrived because Wally has to act so out of character with no explanation why he's acting this way in order to set it up. They contrived this whole situation, and it doesn't feel organic. I mean, then there's the Barry and Iris stuff. Oh, boy. Okay, so, let me get this straight. So Barry only popped the question in order to change things because they weren't engaged in the future when he was there. And Iris is upset about this because, he proposed for the wrong reasons. I would think that doing it to save her fucking life would be reason enough, but you try explaining that to her. Now, I'm not annoyed about Barry dicking Iris around. In fact, I think that's kind of funny. But what I am annoyed about is that Barry is doing lame stuff like this to change the future instead of doing the most obvious thing in the world, which would be simply making sure that Iris is not in that location on that night. That's what he should be focusing on, rather than whether or not Iris is sporting some bling on her hand when she gets stabbed through the chest. However, even though this was a really half-assed attempt to change the future, Barry actually did have the right idea. If every change, no matter how small, creates a potentially different outcome, and that's how time travel supposedly works on this show for now until the next time the writers decide to change it, then in a weird way, being engaged might actually make some kind of difference. Which is why it's so baffling when Iris decides to not go for it. Because it's Iris's turn to be an idiot now. So she's upset that Barry proposed to keep her alive instead of doing it out of love or whatever the fuck. Is this moron so completely incapable of thinking pragmatically about this? Who gives a flying crap why he asked you to marry him, Iris? Does why he did it even fucking matter? No! Because there are bigger issues at play here that are a little bit more important than your stupid hurt feelings, you dumbass. The point is to make the future different in every way you can think of in order to prevent your murder! But you're taking the ring off because it was for the wrong reasons? Because he didn't propose out of love? Jesus Christ. Characters this stupid deserve to die. So you don't want to marry him now. Fine. How about this? In the interest of keeping you alive, Iris, how about you suck it up and just go ahead with the engagement until after the date where Savitar kills you, and if you survive that, then you can call the whole thing off. Did you fucking consider that, Iris? Do you not comprehend the importance of changing the course of events so that this particular future does not happen? No. God, Iris is so fucking annoying right now. And first that stupid shit with the arms dealer, and now this? She says that she doesn't want to die, and yet she keeps doing stuff that by all rights should get her killed. And why? Because she's a stupid idiot character written by stupid idiot writers. Then there was some other dumb fuckery on display here. Barry goes to talk to that Savitar acolyte that they had locked up a few episodes back, For some reason, the guy is walking around free instead of in prison. You figure that out. We see Iris's murder again, and it is making less and less sense that Barry isn't able to save her in the future. Okay, he's like 20 feet away. Savitar is killing her, moving at normal speed. Not super speed, mind you, but normal speed. Barry is running toward him at super speed, and he still can't stop him in time. How the hell is he not fast enough? May I remind you that just a little while ago, he was fast enough to push Joe out of the way of a bullet that was fired 2 inches from Joe's head. But he can't stop Savitar from stabbing someone in the chest at the speed of a normal person. That is fucking stupid. So once again, we're back to Barry's power levels completely changing based on the needs of the plot. Okay, it's bad enough that they do this with time travel all the fucking time, but now they're doing it with Barry's powers again. He has no consistent level of speed. His limits are whatever the writers need them to be in order to move the story forward. Because the writers are fucking lazy. You know, this piece of the Philosopher's Stone still being in play becomes this issue that they try to figure out how to deal with. Here's another thing. Why was it even up for debate? Why didn't they just throw it into the Speed Force first thing like they did before? Problem solved. Instantly. I mean, yeah, that's what Savitar wanted them to do, but they didn't know that at the time. Why was that not the first thing they thought of? Why didn't they do that immediately? It worked before as far as they knew. They had no reason to think it wouldn't work again. The only reason they didn't do it immediately was because the writers had to drag that out and give the team time to figure out what Savitar's plan was, but they didn't have a reason for it. So it just didn't make sense that they wouldn't think of this. And yet, buried in here were the components of an actual good story. Julian channeling Savitar again was quite creepy and affecting. Caitlyn's reason for keeping the piece of the Philosopher's Stone made sense. She was wrong to do it, sure, but you understood why she did it, and she was sympathetic. You felt sorry for her. Her little burgeoning relationship with Julian falling apart as a result hit the right notes as well. It wasn't played for lame-ass melodrama like the Iris stuff. It was genuine and honest, and they didn't try to force anything. If you take out the part where Wally was being an out-of-character idiot and trying to stop Savitar himself without any help for some reason, the scenes where Savitar is trying to drive him nuts worked very well, I thought. They were tense, they were well-acted. I was a little put off by Savitar taking the form of his mom, since apparently she just died off-screen in last season, and they never really followed up on it. But regardless, the climax building up to Savitar's escape really worked. The fight with Savitar was pretty dramatic and powerful as well, even though it was a little unintentionally funny with Barry screaming, "I'm gonna kill you!" just one episode after he went through this whole thing to learn that there's always another way, always a way that doesn't involve killing. So, was that bullshit, or was it just a retcon? Beats me. Still a good scene, though. And the best part is that they managed to connect this whole thing back to Flashpoint. Which means that this is all Barry's fault. and of course, fucking course, the first thing that Joe does is tell Barry that it's not his fault. But the point is that there are actual consequences for Barry's fuck-up playing out here. Actual consequences this time. He's always the one who gets let off the hook, but these are consequences that he cannot ignore. Not this time. He can't just stick his head in the sand and pretend it didn't happen like the genocide of the Dominators. This is something that he's actually going to have to face up to and deal with. Because Wally is now trapped in the Speed Force prison that Savitar was trapped in, and Barry's going to have to find a way to get him out somehow. I'd like to think that he'll be able to do that without putting the entire human race in jeopardy for a third time. But, we are approaching the season finale, and that tends to be what happens, so fingers crossed. Now don't get me wrong. I don't expect these consequences to be lasting. They'll bring Wally back somehow, and they'll stop Iris from getting murdered somehow, but at least for the time being, this is a problem Barry created that he cannot ignore. And by God, that is a step in the right direction. So, while this episode did have plenty of the requisite stupid, which I think we all just expect at this point, there were moments when they were reaching for something better this week. It's not much, but it's a start. Going to the chat room. I actually thought this was the best episode of the season. Outside of everyone's secrets coming back to bite them, no major problems. I wouldn't say there were no major problems. One of the best episodes of the season, probably. It's certainly one of the best. I mean, granted, they've set the bar pretty low at this point. But yeah, I think I think it's probably a toss up between this one and the one when they were in Gorilla City. Granted, neither episode was perfect, but there was less bad than usual, certainly. This episode was like the Teen Titans episode Haunted combined with the series finale of Young Justice. Oh, not the series finale of Young Justice, the season finale of Young Justice, because Young Justice is coming back. I'll take your word for it on Teen Titans, because I really didn't watch that show. But I think both episodes had Wally getting sucked into the Speed Force. They're different Wallies, but it's still a Wally getting sucked in there. But yeah, I see where you're coming from. When he took the stone, Savitar was in his head. He was going crazy and not thinking clearly. I guess. I guess Savitar. I guess you could argue maybe Savitar was like trying to exert some subtle influence over him. Maybe. If that was the case, it would have been nice if there was a line there explaining that. Like maybe, oh yeah, he's hallucinating Savitar. Savitar is in his head, making him think, screwing up his thought process and making him act erratically. That's why he's doing it. It's a little thing, but just a line there explaining, yeah, that's why Wally is off his rocker right now. That would have done the trick. Iris is a bitch. No comment. Barry just stands there while Wally was screaming for help. Superhero of the year. Yeah. Yeah, he probably could have done something about that, couldn't he? Superhero of the year. Barry sucks. If they want Wally back, all they have to do is throw Savitar back into the Speed Force to take his place. And presumably, let's see, if they could find a way to... Oh, what? Hang on a second. Savitar needed the Philosopher's Stone to escape the Speed Force, right? Well, the Philosopher's Stone is in there right now. So, shouldn't Wally just be able to use the Philosopher's Stone to get out? Is that another thing that they're just not going to address? Who knows? Let's see. If they could find a way to talk to Savitar in the Speed Force, can't they find a way to talk to Wally? Possibly. I'm willing to accept that Savitar has abilities that Wally doesn't, or maybe his ability to like temporarily push beyond the realm of the Speed Force comes from experience that Wally just doesn't have yet. I could accept an explanation like that. And okay. And just to head off any Iron Fist comments, there's a lot being said about Iron Fist right now. think it drops next Friday. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. Reviews are, and so we're starting to get more information on it now. I guess there was a press screener of the first couple episodes that was sent out, and critics are starting to weigh in on it, and the reviews are less than enthusiastic. Critics are not wild about this one. And, of course, people on Tumblr are tearing the show a new asshole. Iron Fist is nothing but white-splaining and cultural appropriation and racism! Racism! Fuck this show! Damn it, straight to hell! Of course, those are all people who haven't seen the show yet. So, their opinions are irrelevant. But that's Tumblr for you. Nevertheless, not exactly an auspicious build-up to Iron Fist. I'm taking a wait-and-see approach with it right now. This is just based on the first couple episodes that the critics have seen, and if it starts out on shaky ground, it certainly wouldn't be the first show, and it's certainly capable of improving as it goes on. And Marvel hasn't screwed up on a project yet, so they've more than earned our trust by now. So yeah, I'm just gonna wait and see. Not gonna put too much stock in reviews. Just gonna wait and form my own opinion. Also, the reason I'm not putting much stock in these critics is that a lot of the criticism is a little suspect in my opinion, and I'll tell you why. What are some of the issues that the critics are talking about with Iron Fist right now? Well, they're saying that it's boring. All right. Well, you could say the same thing about Jessica Jones at times, to be honest. I mean, the pacing on that show was kind of anemic, and it ground to a screeching halt for 2 or 3 episodes, but that didn't stop everyone and their brother from raving about Jessica Jones. They've said that the action scenes are underwhelming. Did you see Luke Cage? The action in Luke Cage was almost completely devoid of any tension whatsoever. It could be fun, sure. Watching Luke Cage just plow through bad guys and stuff, it could be fun. But even at the best of times, the action wasn't that tense or dramatic. But you wouldn't know it from the critics who were praising the hell out of Luke Cage too. And so on, and so on. Look. I suspect the criticism that Iron Fist is getting probably has some basis to it. But I'm taking it with a big grain of salt right now because a lot of things the critics are calling it out on are issues that Jessica Jones and Luke Cage had as well. But since those shows starred a woman and a black man, respectively, people were falling all over themselves to make excuses for them. Because diversity, Is Iron Fist a good show or a bad show? I have no idea. I haven't seen it yet. So far, everything looks fine, but it doesn't drop until next week. Until then, all we have to go on is the word of critics, who I don't entirely trust because a lot of the things they're bashing the show for are things that they gave Jessica Jones and Luke Cage a free pass on. And we know the SJWs were going to be pissing all over the show from the outset anyway, so I'm just going to wait and see what happens. Okay. Thoughts on Logan? I haven't actually gotten a chance to see it yet. Let's see. SJW's running wild to 2 Asian actresses on S.H.I.E.L.D., 2 Asian actors and Inhumans. Colleen Wing is Asian, but yet Danny must be race-flipped just because. Yeah. Hey, forget about him being the same race that he is in the comics. But no, it's racist because they didn't race bend Danny into an Asian person. Of course, the funny thing about that is if they had race bent Danny into an Asian person, then people would probably be complaining about how they made the Asian guy a martial artist because they're conforming to stereotypes. Like you can't fucking win with these people. They're always going to be complaining about something. No matter what you do, they're going to be pissed off. They're always going to be offended because There's no way to not offend somebody who is determined to be offended no matter what. They made Colleen Asian. She's the female lead of the show. Do you know how rare it is to have an Asian woman as your female lead on a TV show? It's quite rare. I think that's pretty cool. No, they don't get any credit for that. No. The show is racist because it's a white guy who is the lead on a show with heavy Asian influences and stuff. No, it's racist! Racist! Jesus. Not to mention Runaways, whose most popular character is Asian and has one of the most diverse casts I've seen in a while. Cricket's about that too, but hell-raising about not race-flipping Danny Rand. Let's see. No credit for Marvel casting 2 Asian actors and a native Hawaiian actress for Inhumans, but run Finn Jones off Twitter for being typecast as Iron Fist. Yeah. Like the SJWs were harassing Finn Jones about the cultural about how his TV show is full of cultural appropriation, a TV show that they haven't seen yet, for the record, so they don't know. And Finn Jones actually talked about that. He said, we've taken the cultural appropriation into account. It's not really like that. It's not a white savior thing. Danny isn't trying to save anyone. He's just trying to save himself. Finn Jones tried to answer this stuff, and he tried to be really classy and diplomatic about it from what I saw, but people just kept hounding him, and so he just decided to fuck off and focus on shooting the defenders. So congratulations to all those SJWs on your cyberbullying. Normally, that's the kind of stuff that you'd rail against, but no, when you're doing it, it's okay. You must be so proud. I still can't wait to see Iron Fist. It's hard to take Rotten Tomatoes seriously. Yeah, I don't really put a lot of stock in Rotten Tomatoes either. Yeah, it's not called whitewashing, it's called typecasting. SJWs, get a clue, and this is coming from a guy who has voted for Dem in the last 4 elections. For Democrat in the last 4 elections. Yeah, how is it whitewashing if you're casting a white actor to play a white character? Isn't it whitewashing if you're casting a white actor to play a character that's supposed to be ethnic? Because that's not what they did. Man, whitewashing, white-splaining, cultural appropriation. It's like all these people are just running off the checklist of buzzwords to describe this show. Now, they're not even coming up with like a real argument or any criticism that doesn't feel like completely reactionary. No, they're just listing off a bunch of buzzwords and saying, this is why I hate the show. Man, I was talking about this on Tumblr. Okay, one of the people who replied just flat out said, yeah, I don't like that the show is starring a white guy. That was what the comment said. Not sure how to respond to that. Except that the people who are accusing this TV show of being racist, honestly, they sound like the racist ones. It's like I retweeted something. A white guy teaches an Asian woman how to kung fu. Yeah? Is there something wrong with that? I studied martial arts for a few years back in school. My instructor, guess what? White guy. They're not all. They don't all have. Do they all have to be Asian? Martial arts instructors can come in all colors, guys. People are being completely unreasonable about this. I mean, it would be one thing if they saw the show and then decided they didn't like it because of legitimate and like well thought out reasons, but they're hating the show based on stuff that they're just guessing about. They're just pulling shit out of their ass because they're just determined to be offended by this show. They're just determined to hate it. I feel bad for all the people who worked on this show. It just feels like it's coming out at a bad time, when all this SJW nonsense is just at its peak, and they're just looking for targets. They're just looking for stuff to rail against, because they're not happy unless they're offended about something. And now they're targeting Iron Fist, and it might be a good show, it might be a bad show. I don't know yet, but if it's a good show, they're just giving it all this negative attention, and I feel bad for him. You know, I feel bad for Finn Jones. I mean, this isn't his fault. Now he seems to be a classy guy from what I've seen. I mean, are we supposed to hate him for auditioning for a part and taking the role that was offered to him? This whole situation is very frustrating. Other than Ghost in the Shell, what other anime do you like? I like Bubblegum Crisis. I think the original is really cheesy fun, but I love the remake, the Tokyo 2040 series. Really like that one. Haven't watched it in a few years, but back when I watched it, that was one of my favorites. So I really like that one a lot. In fact, I used to have this fantasy of adapting that one for a live action movie and writing the screenplay. I even had the whole thing like kind of written out in my head. So yeah, I really love Bubblegum Crisis a lot. Do you have the WWE app? Is that even a thing anymore? I haven't. I haven't used it in ages. I don't think they've mentioned it on the show in a couple of years. Do I have the network? No. No real desire to get the network. When is Del Rio a face or a heel? I thought he was coming in as a face. I'm confused and concerned about the future of Impact. What is he, a face or a heel? Good question. He's acting like a face, but then he used the belt to hit Lashley and get the win in the match tonight. I guess it's meant to be okay because Lashley pulled the referee in front of the shot first to like knock out the referee, because I guess when Lashley did that, I guess all bets were off. Maybe that's the justification, but I'm not sure. I guess they're kind of blurring the lines there a little bit. It's the same thing they did earlier in the night with that Fatal 4-Way X Division match where Allie, they did the splash onto Marche Rocket to help Sutter win. Yeah. Sutter had Allie cheat for him, but they're supposed to be the babyfaces somehow. It's confusing. I'm not really sure what the deal, what to think about that. And all right. You know, the Star Wars: The Last Jedi trailer is coming out next month. Really? Next month? Wow. I did not know that. Now I'm going to be waiting for it. Damn, I wish you hadn't told me that. Now it's going to make the wait longer. They could have just surprised me, and that would have been awesome. Now I'm going to be anticipating that thing. It's going to make this next couple of weeks a long wait. Nuts. But that's cool. I'm excited now. Is there anything else? It's pretty early still. But we only have one show to talk about. Well, really. Yeah, I guess that's it. Not sure how long my voice was going to last anyway. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I have to work on Saturday. But not until late. Guess I'm going to have to leave. I don't know, when do I have to leave? I guess 4 or 5. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do the Impact review on Saturday, but it's gonna have to be earlier than usual, probably in the morning, or maybe noonish, because around the time I usually start is when I'm gonna have to leave and go. I got a pretty long commute. I'm gonna have to go into the city again. I hate going into the city. Traffic there is unfucking bearable. But, that's what I gotta do. So, thanks for tuning in. I'm not exactly sure when the stream will start on Saturday. Gonna try to keep it in the morning. But there's always an update and a notice on Twitter when we're about to begin. So follow me for Twitter, on Twitter for updates at TheRealFK9. And I will talk to you hopefully on Saturday morning. See you guys then. Over. Out.